5 subjects, 30 days, no sleep. What began as a classified Soviet experiment became the stuff of internet nightmares. The story of the Russian sleep experiment has horrified millions for over a decade. But where does the legend end and the truth begin? Prepare to witness a journey into the darkest corners of human endurance. This is the truth behind the legend. The 5 subjects were not volunteers. They were political prisoners selected from the depths of the Soviet penal system for a classified military study. The terms were simple yet brutal. If they could survive 30 consecutive days without sleep, their remaining sentences would be wiped clean. Their reward for endurance was freedom. To keep them awake, a specialized gas-based stimulant was pumped into a hermetically sealed chamber. This chemical cocktail was designed to override the brain's natural need for rest. They were given enough food and water to last a month, but no beds. Their only contact with the outside world was through microphones and the thick, reinforced glass where their every move was documented. With the door sealed and the gas flowing, the experiment began. 5 men entered the chamber, but none of them knew what they were truly about to face. The chamber had been silent for hours. Behind the reinforced steel door, no movement could be heard. No voices, no breathing. Only the low mechanical hum of the gas system still pumping its stimulant mixture into the sealed room. Researchers stood on the other side of the glass, hesitant. For 30 days, the chamber had remained closed. For 30 days, the subjects inside had not slept. And for 30 days, the team had monitored every sound, every shift, every whisper. But now, nothing. A senior officer gave the order. The bolts disengaged with a metallic groan. A rush of stale, chemical-laden air escaped into the corridor. And as the door slowly opened, the researchers finally saw what remained of the 5 men they had placed inside. The official report would later describe the scene as beyond the limits of human endurance. But the truth behind this story is far stranger. The narrative begins in the late 1940s, deep within the Soviet Union, a period defined by secrecy, paranoia, and the relentless pursuit of scientific advantage. According to the story, 5 political prisoners were selected for a classified experiment. Their sentence: remain awake for 30 consecutive days. Their reward: freedom if they succeeded. The method was simple. A specialized gas mixture would be pumped into a sealed chamber, preventing the subjects from falling asleep. Researchers would observe from behind thick glass, documenting the effects. For the first few days, the subjects behaved normally. They spoke, they ate, they exercised, they laughed. But by the 5th day, their conversations grew darker. Paranoia began to take hold. Whispers replaced dialogue. They avoided the microphones as if afraid of being overheard. By the 9th day, the first screams began. One subject ran in circles, shouting until his voice broke. Another tore at his own skin. The others retreated into corners, muttering. Then, suddenly, silence. For days, the chamber remained quiet. Researchers attempted communication, but the subjects refused to respond, only the faint rustling of movement. When the chamber was finally unsealed, the men inside were unrecognizable, emaciated, mutilated, eyes wide, bodies trembling, yet still awake. One allegedly whispered a final sentence to the horrified researchers: "You cannot let us sleep." This is the tale that has circulated online for more than a decade. But none of it ever happened. The Russian sleep experiment is not a declassified Soviet document. It is not an eyewitness account. It is not a leaked report. It is a piece of internet fiction. The story first appeared in 2010, written by a user known as orange_soda on the Creepypasta wiki. Creepypasta is a form of modern myth-making, short horror stories designed to be shared and spread across forums. The name comes from copypasta, text copied and pasted repeatedly. The Russian sleep experiment became one of the most iconic examples. Its clinical tone and historical setting made it feel authentic, even though it was entirely fabricated. Yet despite its fictional origin, millions continue to believe it is real. Stories like this thrive because they sit at the intersection of authority, plausibility, and fear. The Soviet Union remains secretive. Its real experiments, psychological conditioning, sleep studies provide ground for speculation. When a story claims that era, it carries credibility. The writing style also plays a role. It is presented like an official report, detached, clinical, unemotional. This tone mimics scientific documentation, creating a sense of legitimacy. And then there is the internet itself, a place where information spreads faster than verification. A story shared enough times begins to feel true simply through repetition. But beneath all of this lies something deeper, a fear not of governments or experiments, but of ourselves. The popularity of this story speaks to a collective anxiety about consciousness, the fragile boundary between wakefulness and madness. Sleep is a fundamental human need. To imagine sleep being taken away is to imagine the unraveling of the self. The story forces us to ask what happens when the mind is pushed beyond its natural limits. It also reflects a fear of control, of being observed, manipulated, or used in an experiment without consent. A fear rooted in real historical abuses but amplified by the unknown. And finally, it reveals a fascination with the extremes of human behavior, to understand suffering, to know what lies at the edge of human endurance, sanity, morality, and identity. The Russian sleep experiment is fiction, but the emotions it evokes, fear, curiosity, unease, are very real. And perhaps that is why the story endures, not because it happened, but because it could have. The chamber remains empty. The experiment is over, but the questions it raised about the human mind linger in the dark. The Russian sleep experiment is a legend of our own making, a mirror held up to our deepest fears. Sleep well if you can. Thank you for watching. The truth is always out there.